Good morning. My name is Ionut Oprea. I'm the publisher of an investment guide dedicated to Romania. In the last 6 years, I represent a media publishing company, Transylvanian Business, with a focus on business in regional but also capital city of Romania.
Daniel Puchalski, JLL Poland. I'm responsible for land advisory market in the region and working with every single land apart of warehousing.
My name is Pustelnick. I'm the head of an Investor Service International Cooperation Department in the local government in Łódź. It's the second biggest city in Poland, in close proximity to Warsaw. So it's not so obvious for me to appear after such a nice introduction of Warsaw, because according to some opinions, we are a competitive city towards Warsaw. However, very nice of you to invite us, Rich. Thanks.
Good morning, my name is Wojciech Dolinski. I'm running a valuation business for Horwath HTL, dealing mostly with the hotel and leisure industry.
Good morning, my name is Bart Sasim. I represent SPX agency. We are a 360 creative agency from Amsterdam. We've been mainly working in Western Europe so far. However, we see a lot of interest in CEE in terms of like student housing, co-living, and co-working. This is our core business here. So I'm very happy to share some trends about those segments.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you. Bart, actually, if we can start with you, because you were born in Poland. You come from Katowice, yeah. But you have not lived in Poland for many years. Is that correct?
Yeah, indeed. I was born in Poland. I finished high school and I left to UK. And I studied interior architecture, so there I got really interested in interaction of various groups, especially like students and young professionals. And from this, I pretty much started to specialize in student housing, co-living, and this influenced pretty much the further growth into this industry.
Well, I mean, you're a very interesting segment of the population, if you like, because Poland has many strengths and many positives, but one aspect is that many Polish people have left. Maybe you can say something about this as well, Adam, in a moment, but many Polish people have left, and in Romania, I know this is also an issue, and you are one of these people. I mean, do you want to come back to Poland? Do you feel it's a place you want to come back to? What's your feeling about the country from afar, let's say?
Yeah, indeed. I see this as a problem. So I think exodus of talents is definitely a problem for a lot of CEE countries, and I would love to go back to Poland. We are going back to Poland with our business. We are starting to work in Warsaw and Kraków next year. So I'm very happy to start having contact more with Poland. I would love to go back. I think we will establish business in Poland in the next 1 to 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Adam, you wanted to say something about, because I know for Łódź it's important to draw back talent. How are you doing this? Are you trying to do this?
For every Central European city, it's important to attract talent because we are in a phase of relatively rapid growth. However, the major driver usually when it comes to people's migration are economic factors. Many of the people that I know that migrated outside of Poland, they migrated to London, New York, and the most vibrant global metropolis because of the unique opportunities that they provide. We will never be competitive, especially regional cities, against London or New York, simply because we don't have that many corporate headquarters and we are not the center of events when it comes to global economics and politics. That's why, despite our growth, despite our way improved quality of life and infrastructure, we still certain group of people that has the ambitions to live in a global metropolis, they will be driven outside Poland. When you want to work in corporate headquarters of McKinsey, you gotta go to New York or London or somewhere else.
I mean, do you think that will ever come to Poland, the corporate headquarter type company?
I wish, but I'm quite skeptical. Simply because. London is London, New York is New York, and most of the companies are located there for a reason. Warsaw may be the heart of Central Europe, but it will never develop the status and the advantages of one of the capitals of the world.
Okay, I mean, Daniel, what do you agree with Adam, or because you're based in Warsaw, obviously, and you are.
I am based in Warsaw, but operating in the entire country, working with investment land. And if we take for consideration the demand for land so far, it's actually every single big city is looking for the new investors for actually everything, for hotels, for residential, for offices, and student housing. But now if we speak about the new headquarters, then in short term I agree with my colleague, but in long term there is a potential, I can see it. But of course, the problem is that we always rely on, let's say, if something wrong will happen somewhere else, like Brexit, for example. When Brexit came to life, we have had really plenty of requests from London companies, especially financial one, about the potential allocation of the headquarters in Warsaw. That was just a request. Outcome was just 2 or 3 companies decided to do it, but still okay. But we have to ask ourselves, is this a range of white Europe or just simply, as my colleague said, Central and Eastern Europe? And I don't want to mention names here, but I think we know what I'm talking about. But 2 companies, big financial companies, they really are organizing the European Center in Poland, in Warsaw, so far. Which is good news, and for the next 10 years, I think we will observe very, very big demand. A part of the, again, if anything wrong not happen outside or inside, we're supposed to still keep this growth, definitely not on the level as we are observing this year and the last year. Especially we sold 47,000 apartments, which is the European record. And also in terms
European record for a city, 47,000.
47,000 apartments in last year.
And this is the record for Europe?
For Central Europe, for
Central
sure.
Europe, okay.
I didn't check it with the rest of the Europe, but of the Central and Eastern Europe, it's an absolute record. And 40%, as far as I remember, was the transaction, cash transaction, not based on loan.
40% of those
around
people paid in cash?
Yeah.
So they're paying 500,000 zloty in cash?
Indeed.
Wow. What does that tell you about, it's an interesting...
You know, we have faced several things in the last 2-3 years. One was that we have been, the people are afraid of investing in gold because of 2 situations we had in Poland with the, you know, almost businessmen when it came to life with the new ideas, and people collapsed with their own money because of this.
That's a long time ago.
It was, but still, you know, the memory is still there. So they have been looking for the new investments. Once that happened, they started to invest in the stock exchange, which is still really not a good idea to invest. And they decided to invest their own money, private money, into real estate apartments. Everyone believes that he will rent his house out. And I'm not that sure that it will be so big success. If we take a look in Krakow, where we have over 10,000 apartments not leased for long term, they are trying to make this deal done in the short-term basis via Booking.com or something like that. But really, we are observing very big boom on the land and on the residential part, but also a lot of offices is raising right now. But I think we will see some kind of the calm down in 2 years around.
Okay, thank you. I know Adam wants to say something. I have a question also for Wojciech and Ionut, and then over to you, Richard. So
I just wanted to make a short ad vocem. I just wanted to say that I'm also enthusiastic about the future, but I just wanted to say that not being able to directly compete with London or New York is not anything bad. Not everyone needs to be a Maserati. You can be a well-working BMW or Volkswagen. It also can be good. And in my opinion, we don't need at all to compete with New York or London. We can be a very catchy product in our category. So I think we as Poland will be successful. The central Polish metropolis, or the duopolis of which Warsaw will be, of course, the capital of the region. But in my opinion, we will never be a second New York type of product, London type of product, or Berlin type of product. However, we can be extremely successful in our domain.
Okay, thank you. I'll come to you in a minute, Wojciech, about the hotel market. But first, you have a huge responsibility on it. You're representing a big country, Romania. I mean, if you can just, in a nutshell, tell us, how things are looking in office, in what sectors are really booming, and yeah, leave it at that for a moment.
Yeah, it's even harder for me too, because if you compete with the global cities, we sometimes, and the developers and people in Romania are feeling that they are competing with Poland or with Hungary or Czech Republic. I cannot say that all the sectors are booming. I mean, taking back the discussion from the diaspora, we also have a problem with people living abroad. We have over 3.5 million people abroad, and now it's a public theme in discussion and an acknowledged problem. There is even an organization, Romanian Business Leaders, which is gathering leading Romanian business people, and they do a series of events called Repatriate, trying to get the people back. Things are happening, and if we consider, for instance, that the modern office stock grow 5 times in the last 5 years, and it will reach 1 million square meters in the regional cities, that is Timișoara, Iași, Brașov, and Cluj. So that by the end of this year. And in Bucharest also we have approximately 900,000, 1 million square meters to be delivered until 2019, 2020. So there is also an increasing demand for residential, also in Bucharest, also in regional cities. We have now larger schemes, like for the first time in the last years, schemes that have 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 modern flats, apartments, premium modern schemes, also for Bucharest, for the regional cities. And of course, also logistics is doing well. We have transactions approximately 700,000 square meters last year and 400,000 square meters to be delivered this year.
In which sector, sorry?
In logistics industries.
Okay.
So yeah, and half of the demand and the take-up is in Bucharest or near Bucharest.
I mean, I don't want to, again, sorry, I'm a little bit like going on the slightly negative things, but on the political situation, I mean, does business ignore that, or what's your comment on that?
The business is overcoming the political situation. Okay, the politicians aren't the best. Since what I've heard, not only in Romania we have this problem. There is, of course, a need for a better management and public investments, and the private sector is way ahead of the public sector. But there is no other option than to modernize or to develop also public investments.
Okay, thank you. Wojciech, your expertise is hotel sector, and I mean, like you say in Romania, in Poland, I mean, you have residential is booming, although people are saying that it's going to be a bit of a slowdown. But hotel, I mean, people talk about hotel like there's infinite possibilities, and from the outside, it's interesting to know that. What is your feeling about the hotel sector in Poland?
I mean, we all agree that when the products become scarce, investors go to other assets, taking more operating risks, and that's why in the scarcity of other products, all the investors direct themselves to hotels. But at the same time, just maybe a little bit following on that what Daniel said and the apartment market, seeing that most of the, I would say that maybe even more than that, 40% of apartments bought for cash was acquired for investment purposes. That also some people would obviously not agree, because you've got corporates, they will always go to sleep in a hotel, but you have a huge market using those private investments, and that's putting pressures on ADRs. And looking at the investment pipeline, how it will look in 2 years in Warsaw, Gdańsk. There might be an oversupply, which, in line with dooming crisis in some time, might have really detrimental effect on the net operational income of all those properties. It's maybe an unusual opinion, speaking from the consultant point of view, as I remember opinions from 2007. But I'm not sure if some of you will agree with me. But I guess we've already passed the top of the cycle
What's driving the boom in hotels? Is it tourism or is it business travelers?
No, that's both. Obviously, it depends on the location and the city, but we already see a pressure and the downward trend on ADRs in some of the locations. Some people tend to say that it's a herald of downturning cycle, because it's usually like that you see those downward trends on the ADR, then obviously coupled with occupancy factor and so on, and then all the other sectors will follow. So we'll see how it will go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Over to you, and then afterwards, of course, will come some questions from the audience. Richard.
Yeah, I wanted to start actually with you, Bart. First of all, I'm very pleased, Adam, that I've been striving to be a Maserati for years, and I can now just accept that I'm a Volvo, and that's fine. You know, that'll be all right. So that's good. Thank you for that. Saves an awful lot of striding to come. Bart, just tell everybody what the actual name of your company is. What does SPX stand for?
So SPX stands for Super Positive Experience. We put a lot of attention to experience. So what we can see happening with millennials is that millennials don't buy products anymore, but they do buy experience. So we help investors, asset managers, operators, developers to build these products with experience mix. So that's what we do.
And just tell us a little bit more. We heard there earlier that from Daniel that residential has been booming, particularly in Poland. We've seen residential, particularly student housing, and then increasingly micro-living. We had a session on it yesterday, looking at the themes for that. You're obviously working in other markets at the moment, but you're now beginning to look particularly at the CEE markets. What's driving that for you? You've been researching the market, obviously. So where are you seeing the opportunities now in that area, and what are the trends that you're seeing?
So we started in Amsterdam with brands like the Student Hotel, which is an alternative asset. It's a hybrid of student housing, hotel, and a short stay. Quite interesting product, I would say. And what we've seen is that, Netherlands fell behind UK pretty much like 10, 15 years, in my opinion. And then in Netherlands, something interesting happened, which I just mentioned about this hybrid. And from there, we see that this type of product, so a hybrid of hospitality and resi product, is something that is viable on Western markets. So that's where we mainly work. We work in Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, going to Spain. And I think if we look in Spain in terms of like size and demographics, we can see that this is kind of a similar model to Poland. Slightly bigger, obviously, a slightly bigger country, but pretty much right now that's where the investors are looking into. And I would say Poland is falling, let's say 2-3 years behind in the major trends.
Okay, good. So we should be able to look at other markets, compare with those, and then see where we think the Polish market is heading. But by the sounds of it, if you're moving into it and looking at it as a trend and you're beginning to come there, then this is a market which is being opened up and will grow considerably from there.
Indeed. We start to work in Poland next year. Very much looking forward to it.
Okay, good. And Daniel, you mentioned the residential side. What are you seeing there, I suppose, in terms of what Bart is seeing? Are you beginning to see micro-living beginning to come in, student housing? What are the trends there, or are we really at an early stage in that for the Warsaw market, for the Polish market?
Actually, there is no very short one answer for that, because if we take a look deeply into the Polish market right now, so actually everything is booming. We are observing the best results in warehousing, in terms of the sold land, the same in residential, the same in offices. Really horrible boom is on the hotel and the student housing right now. Let's say 3 years ago, it was there were two companies requesting for land in Poland for student housing purpose. Last year it was 6 of them. Currently we have 11 investors on the list who are really actively looking for student houses in the 8 to 10 biggest Polish cities right now. So in general, because many people, they say everything starts from the land. I'm saying everything starts from the idea. But this idea was already invented somewhere else, like also senior housing. So we really observe income of the very high number of investors in all those fields. But also we see the same what is every single emerging market on any other market is observing, that this is the market is overloaded by money, simply. So it's too much money comparing to the very limited access to the land right now. So this is the biggest problem actually of the investors is the land, not just land, I mean size. They're building for refurbishment, for extension and so on. This is really very problematic. We are so happy because we collected on the beginning of the year approximately 1 billion Polish zlotys in the value of the land for sale. But I already see for the next year, it is like only 30–40% of this amount. And okay, the government is, let's say, helping a little bit like the ideas of Lex Developer, which is supposed to be helpful to buy a land, but on the end of the day, it's rather political than the business issue, I would say.
And what's the situation in terms of, and I'll come to you in a second on that as well, in terms of investors and the cities and planning and regulation, whether that's redevelopment, development, is that a block for investors, or in general, is it investor friendly, do you think?
Investors friendly? Yeah, we can say that there are really very small points. There are very small points on the Polish map in terms of the city halls which are helpful. One of those is actually, I'm not saying this because he's sitting next to me. It's true. Łódź, Wrocław, Gdynia, Gdańsk. It's really something on top of the list. But in general, it's not everything. You know, the cities can be helpful to investors in the same way to everyone else, also to us as citizens, because on the end of the day, we are walking through the streets, observing the buildings and the streets and the infrastructure, which is there or not. Then definitely is the government politics for the investments, for the land ruling, and especially for the, let's say, I would call it building permit process in general, from scratch, from day one to the day when you can start construction. So it's very not helpful right now, and more than that, some other regulations which came to life right now, for example, are not allowing to close the deal due to one fact, because you cannot put yourself into the mortgage books, because due to the fact that you have to wait up to 12 months, for example. But they are small things. As somebody said today, you I think still said that business goes over the politics. I think we have the same, okay. Fortunately.
Good. Adam, just coming to you. We've been doing a lot of sessions here which have been around general European themes, and particularly looking at cities and capital markets, and also the sustainability of the investment. And one of the key things that's been coming up increasingly actually over the past 2 years, but it was very noticeable here at EXPO REAL, was the investors beginning to look far more at access to human capital, to areas like livability, city attractiveness, well-being. How important is that for you? And also, what are you doing, Adam, in terms of outreach to investors? If there are people here who want to invest in your city, how can they do that?
I just want to quickly refer to my pre-speaker. It's very important to have it in mind that the vast majority of regulations regarding the investment process are in the jurisdiction of the central government and the so-called big politics. We can do a lot. We can be nice. We can take care of our PR. But it's the aesthetics. The vast majority of the regulations and the hard factors are relating to tax issues, tax policy, rates, percentages, and the banking regulations, and some other factors are being implemented by the government, the capital. However, we can be aggressive in promotion, attracting the investment, and we are doing so because we have to. Most of the most vibrant metropolis in Western Europe, they are not so aggressive in terms of attracting new investments simply because they don't need to. They have I spoke sometime with the deputy mayor of Munich. He told me that he does not attract investments simply because he does not have any more plots to sell, first of all. And he said that they have so much business that the infrastructural capacity of the city and the human talent just reached the limit. So if I were in his position, I would also just sit in my office and wait for the things to happen. We are in a different position, most of the Polish regional cities, simply because even though we have a significant growth, there is still big potential, and we need to be proactive. That's why we are hungry. Sometimes people would like to call it that way. Coming back to people. Of course, right now it's the most important factor. When I talk to investors, no matter if they are investment funds, outsourcing companies, or IT companies, they don't ask me about tax vacations anymore, tax exemptions in the first place. They ask me about the availability of people, connection to big hubs, and attractiveness, especially for millennials and the young people. Our answer for it is pumping the biggest amount of public money in Poland's history into this city center. We are doing it. We are pumping over 1 billion euros as a part of the so-called revitalization program. We want to refurbish the historic center, and we are in the middle of the process. We already spent like 500 mil. When you combine it with the new railway station, the new business district, approximately 2 billion euros already, and 1 billion in the pipeline. So we want to make the city as attractive as it's possible, and we want to reach the convergency effect when attracting people from the region, not to leave towards the capital, and for the people who are there to, as much as it's possible, to retain them. Simply, we want to invest in the quality of life and the image of the city as much money as is possible. By the way, we are, I think, the most EU-friendly city on the continent because we are the biggest beneficiary of EU funding, I think, in the entire Europe. So, really, the EU support in the city of Łódź is like 99%. And that's our idea. It's very simple. Make the city as attractive as it's possible and attract as much business as possible. We want to get as close when it comes to the offer for citizens to London or some powerful metropolis as possible. But at the same time, we are aware of the fact that we will never be able to combat it.
Okay, good. Well, the last time, and in fact the only time I was in Łódź was as a student in 1985, so I'll make a commitment to you, Adam, that I will come in 2019 to Łódź and see. I would imagine it's changed somewhat since 1985. Certainly I have. Ionut, let's just quickly, we'll do some very quick fire ones because I know we're up against time, and I do want to get any questions that you've got. You're seeing the logistics side of things, obviously, in Romania. Again, picking up the point there about human capital. That was one of the biggest things that came up in both of the sessions we did on logistics, was actually being able to position your logistics assets near access to people to work. What are you seeing, particularly on logistics? Just give me a 2-minute update on what you're seeing in the region.
There are two areas that are competing in this discussion in Romania: Bucharest on the one hand, and the western part of the country on the other. That we go from Cluj to Timișoara to the border. Fortunately, still for Romania, these two areas, Bucharest especially, are a magnet. They still attract talent pool from smaller cities around, from the regional cities. So Bucharest has been always very catchy in terms of its, even including its nightlife. All the expats or the foreign managers or the tourists really appreciate its nightlife. We're starting to pump up money, because I like this idea, and recently the government announced the $1 billion investment for the extension of the airport. We have currently now 76 flights to 31 countries and 30 million people traffic in a year in Bucharest airport, so that needs to be expanded. On the other hand, for instance, the regional city Cluj-Napoca has its own booth here at EXPO REAL, and they're promoting the brand as Transylvania, maybe more recognizable and more attractive for foreign investor or for people, and they're promoting an extensive agenda of events and music festivals, and they're also trying to invest in the public areas, have a riverfront upgrade development in Cluj and a huge music festival, Untold. Maybe you've heard of it. So everyone is also trying to compete and attract capital, human capital in these cities.
Okay, good. And Wojciech, last one for you, which is we've seen quite a big trend in terms of investment capital heading east and heading further east, especially because there's very high economic GDP growth. You're seeing, therefore, more money in people's pockets. You're beginning to see wages rise, but you're also seeing low-cost airlines beginning to actively move into some of the smaller countries, CEE, SEE. Are you seeing a growth in terms of investment appetite in particularly in your sector, where maybe institutional capital or private capital is more able to access the hotels and leisure sector than maybe they are to be able to go into retail or office?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and apart from the typical hotel assets, there are also entities which are looking for alternatives, like even entering the let's call it resort and leisure market in Poland. But you know, at the same time, it is reasoned by what I said before, and it also seems that some of the players are looking for distressed assets, also the ones which came to the market after the crisis we already had 10 years ago because of the banking regulations. It's usually takes some time until the banks can write it out from the balance sheet. So referring to the subject of the panel, just to sum up a little bit. It seems that also investors, apart from typical core products, are looking at these kind of opportunities because already these can be offloaded of bank institutions and offer a huge upside in comparison to what we observe on a general market, and not only obviously on the hotel sector, but from the other sectors as well.
Okay, good. Thank you.